podcast with no rules, no boundaries, and really just no expectations. It just is. These are unscripted conversations with those I have had and currently have real relationships with. This is not an interview or informational podcast, but instead it's really a podcast of witness to the living example of healing through relation, the 2x2. This podcast is a space for us to meet fully in the present and to really allow the miracles, the love, and the light to shine through. This podcast is a reminder we do not wake up alone. We remember the truth together, 2x2, as the light reveals itself in the space between us. So I'm really excited today to bring you a dear friend, Constantine. We are no strangers to hitting record, to conversations where spirit flows through, we become mirrors for one another. And of course, this conversation that you're about to tune into will not disappoint as well. We start out talking about chickens in real day life and raising chickens and how that, and what came first, the chicken or the egg, and how all of that just metamorphed itself into a very deep conversation about really trusting and following guidance and letting go of the stories and not even just the quote unquote bad stories, but the realization of all stories. And then what does that really mean for continuing to operate as an individual when you have that awareness? And then, from listening to that little spark within of something that makes absolutely no sense based on all you know about yourself and others and the opportunities out there, and going forward and allowing what to come through you to come through, and how beautiful it can be, and how, they say hindsight is 2020, kind of that mentality in a way of realizing like we never actually know until later what is going to come about. And what really gets us stuck is when we think we know what is going to come about. So I love our conversations. My dear brother Constantin has been a huge mirror for myself, and I can't speak for him, but I do believe I've been a mirror as well. We talk about how we first met, which was actually hitting record on a conversation, and here we are 3 years later. I think 3 years later, still having these conversations and still pressing record. And he has been the greatest questioner of me, and has really mirrored to me so much of my own beliefs that are needing to be looked at, and are not needing, I guess, but ready to be looked at and to release. He's really helped me ground deeper in my faith and my trust just through these conversations of having respect and love for one another, so we can really kind of confront those stories that usually would be prickled by anyone else. So I am so excited. A funny thing is we have never actually met in person. He lives in Canada, and I, lived in the US or live in the US and traveling the world, never even made it to Canada. But I kind of joke, I've probably spent more time talking to Constantine than most people close to me. So it's a really great conversation, and it definitely will not be the last on this podcast. So make sure to continue to tune in, and yeah, not much more to say. Here you go. So much love. Bye. Here we are back for another conversation today with one of my faves, Constantine. We have never met in person, but I've had more conversations with you than most people. At one point we were having a conversation, I felt like almost daily, whether it was via, recorded, we were doing our YouTube lives. But I think the coolest part is I don't know how we met, and how it just unfolded, and how we both trusted, because we were in completely different places. And I don't know if you kind of want to share about that, but first, let's check in. How's your weekend been?
Weekend's been good. It's coming to an end now, right? But no, it's been chill for the most part. I'm in Canada, so it's a bit cold now. So
Yeah.
mostly indoor stuff. But no, it's been a good few days. How about you guys? I know you moved recently, right?
Yeah, we're in Spokane, Washington. Um, and we moved to a different house just the other day. So we're at our second house sit. We went from the farm to the house, and yeah, there's no animals here except for the little birdie on my microphone. But yeah, it's been quite a change. You moved out to the farm not that long ago, and you're still there, but it's winter on the farm.
Yeah.
This is your first winter on the farm. How's that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the chickens are mostly inside. They don't really. I mean, they have a run that I've done for them, and they have. I put some greenhouse film on it so that it gets warm in the day, which is really nice. But I don't
Mm,
like the snow. They just stay inside and they just chill and do nothing all day.
yeah.
So it's pretty cool to watch them and they just do nothing. And make some eggs and that's pretty much it. And eat all the food.
Makes Are they making eggs?
Some of them are, yeah. I mean, they're not supposed to make year round, but depending on like there's some younger ones that are coming into
Mm.
maturity, so they'll be providing eggs. But we're dropped from probably like a dozen a day to maybe a couple to a few eggs a day, right? So it's it's ups and downs.
Yeah. Well, Pat and I, eggs became a huge part of what we ate when we were traveling, and it just still continues because they seem to be easy. But you realize, like, it's one of those things that's like, as soon as we create a story about something, like eggs are easy, they all of a sudden become the opposite. Like when we were on Bon Air, it was like impossible to get a hold of them, and I think at the same time the U.S. was dealing with issues with eggs,
Oh
and
yeah, I remember that.
yeah, so you just, I don't know, I think it's funny. Because even like when we went to the farm, we were excited. We're like, oh my gosh, I have all these chickens. We're going to have fresh eggs. And she's like 2 days before you guys showed up, they stopped producing like completely. And we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, because they change their feathers, like most animals, towards the colder seasons, and when they start doing that, they stop producing for a while. So the trick, at least of what I was told here when I took over the mini farm, is to just have a cycle of babies, right, that are about to mature. They need about 5 to 6 months, right? So if you
Yeah.
have them in the summer, by the winter they'll start producing, and then
Yeah.
next winter they'll go back to the rest.
I love it. I just feel too like we can just learn. I don't know. It's funny that we started the conversation like about chickens, and like one of the things I feel like a lot of our conversations we turn to that like when we're explaining something we're like it's like the chicken or egg conundrum, which came first, the chicken or egg, like we're always using that cuz it's just like all at once, like nothing came first or second or last or any of that. So I think it's quite
Yeah,
comical
it's
that we've been guided to start because we never talk about chickens. Like you've told me
no,
about
I
your
don't think.
chickens.
Yeah, I don't think we've talked about them yet.
No,
I mean,
we
it's definitely
haven't.
been a humbling experience, right? And the cleaning part, maintaining them. The bigger aspect, I mean, the one aspect I thought was going to be a bit different, and it hit me from like 2 days in, I think, is losing chickens or losing anything that's
Mm,
has some meaning behind it for ourselves, right? Like something that's living, for example. And I've lost. I mean, we have a big flock. We have about 40 or so, but we've lost probably almost, I want to say, a dozen or so in the first 6 months we've been here for various reasons, right? Like predators and the cold and
yeah.
disease and stuff like that, right? And it's interesting because I mean I've always been a huge animal lover, and it's funny because at times I find myself, my heart breaks more for animals than humans for some reason, but that's a
Mm,
whole other story. And it's been interesting to deal with that, but at the same
mm,
time realizing that this is, I mean, it just is. It's part of nature. We're part of
mm,
it, and give them the best life possible. And then when it's time for them to move on, they move on.
yeah. Well, and I think, I mean, it goes into like the perception. So interesting enough, when we went to the farm, she was pretty like open, like, animals die and things, like, like stuff happens, like you said, like they have tons of chickens, they're all over, they recently had a hawk, whatever. But she made a good point, and I remember I had this friend when I was working for the government, and she also worked with me, and she lived on a farm, and her daughter grew up on the farm, and she just built this perception, right? It just goes to show the difference, that like it truly is just a part of it, just a tool. So it's not something like sad or heavy. It's like, it's just like when an animal passes, like that's just what happens on the farm. Things pass away. And then when we came to this farm, the lady there, she's like, I still struggle with, if something passes away, but my kids, they're like, Mom, it's, it just
Yeah.
is. And like some people in society could be like, oh my gosh, that's heartless, you don't care. But I think it really goes to show like the perception of, it's all a story that we're telling ourselves. And I think the greatest story is the belief that the oneness doesn't exist, and that instead we're separate, and different pieces of the one are dying. Because like if you think about it, like, oh, here I go, like here goes our conversations, Constantine. Like if you think about it though, like if we're one, and we believe we're one, like that's something you and I both can agree upon, that we believe in the oneness, we
Absolutely.
believe the interconnectedness, and a projected body, whether it's an animal or a human, because that's another like thing you and I both believe, is like it doesn't matter what you are. Granted, like you said, you might have stories about being more upset about an animal than a human, but that's, like you said, a different story. But it's like, if we still feel quote unquote alive, right? Like Ashley, because we had to, the farm had to put their dog down. But it was sad when they put their dog down. But if I truly believe in oneness, I feel alive. So can the dog really be dead?
Yeah, that's a tough one, right? And because I was not sure this was something that came up for me in meditation a few days ago. If because things come and go from our life all the time.
Yeah.
And I've had dogs all my life, and I've had to say goodbye to quite a few of them. It was always very emotional for me, and for those that were around me at the time. And I guess, like, people always say, right, like when something passes on, they can still sense their presence, either just in the air more or less, or in the
Yeah.
person they're closest with, right?
Yeah, like they still live. What is that, like a statement like about, like they say it about the children or whatever, the parent lives on in them, through what they taught them and how they respond and all of that. Like
Yeah.
that.
And the story that comes up for me, this is really interesting, because I like my entire spiritual journey before you and I met, probably this was, I want to say, a year before we met. I was in Ecuador for the ayahuasca trip, and
Oh, that's right.
this was 2022, so 4 years now. And leading up to the trip, now what's important to know for me, I mean personally, is that I was someone that went in with, funny enough, I would say very little expectation, because I've never been drunk, nor have I done drugs, so I had no idea what to expect. I mean, I heard all these stories and did my research, and I knew it's going to be magical. I just didn't know what it was going to be.
Hmm.
And it happened that around the same time, about probably 2 weeks before, one of the dogs that I raised with my ex, and we had together for a long time, before we split up, she kept the dog. It passed away, and I didn't have a chance to go say goodbye to the dog. And the dog, I think, her and I had it for about 10 years together, and then she lived a few more years after we split up. And I would visit a few times a year because they're pretty far away. And this particular dog, I was, of course, very close to it. Beautiful, beautiful soul. And I was very sad to not be able to say goodbye, because it happened, fairly quick. Anyway, so I'm in Ecuador. I'm about to have the first ceremony. And the way they have you set up, it's kind of, imagine a giant gazebo, and everyone kind of has like a sleeping mat. And there's only one entrance. You always come, I believe, from the east, if I'm not mistaken. And then you always go in one direction. So I think it's clockwise, and you find your seat. So as you know, we go in. Let's say you enter at 6 o'clock on a clock. I was kind of like between 4 and 5,
Okay.
and then there's about 30 people in there, including the shamans and whatnot. So as we take the medicine, it takes a bit for it to kick in, and you take it over multiple rounds should you want to. And halfway through the ceremony, there's this dog that came in, and the property had about 4 or 5 dogs. At the time, it was like 3 days in. I only interacted with a few of them, but this particular dog, I've never, paid attention to in a way, or he didn't pay attention to me. So the dog walks in, looks left, looks right, and comes straight for my bed. Right, like passes a bunch of people, just straight for my bed. At the point, I'm standing up. They're all kind of laying down on the floor. I'm standing up on my bummy, and then I start to hug the dog, and it just sits there with me. And all I could feel was the presence of Bianca, the dog that passed away. But not only that, as I was sitting with the dog and I was sobbing and I was loving it, I started to feel the presence of all my previous dogs as well, and the current dogs, right? So it's almost like, like you talked about the idea of one. It's like, and I haven't thought about this in a long time, this memory, but like it came up and it's like, oh, wait a second, this is like kind of probably what it feels like, right? Because you're like, oh, they're not gone. It's just
Right.
a different form, different
Yeah.
part of you. So that felt like the closure I never got to have in person. And it felt like it lifted this massive weight off of me. And then, of course, my spiritual journey began from that experience onwards. But it was always interesting for me to look back at, because I remember people commenting the next day after we all sobered up and whatnot. It's like, wow, you had that moment with the dog that was amazing to witness and see. And yeah, people were amazed because, like, I mean, for me, it was very personal and very, I felt like in the zone, but I guess it looked very interesting from the outside as well. And then we had in total about 5 ceremonies. And what I started to witness is that with every ceremony, 1 or 2 or 3 of the dogs would come, but they would always come at what you would call the right time for certain people. So someone was about to break down, a dog would appear and and go and sit with them or be there with them. And then the dog would take off, like the same as the one that came with me. Like he came, spent some time with me, laid down on my feet after we hugged it out, and then he took off. Didn't go to another bed, just took off. Another dog comes, goes, does something with someone else. So, there's something to be said about that as well. I know the power of animals and the power of, well, everything around you, right? Like even just a tree, I should say just a tree, but a tree, a blade of grass, whatever the case may be, a butterfly, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's so beautiful. And that's exactly, essentially what I was saying is, the form doesn't really matter. And it's those moments like you had on your ayahuasca trip where we experience that. We feel that, there's so many times that people are like, oh, my deceased father is all around me. Like I saw this chicken, or, I have a friend right now and we got big in, she got me into selling stuff on Etsy. And she talks about like when she's out thrifting, she's seeing all these signs of her gram. And like, so it's almost like they're doing it together, and it's,
Of course, yeah.
but they are, because we're all one. But you know what kind of came to my mind when you're talking about that, Constantine, is like, we see quote unquote living things as so special, right? As like having, like we give them special permission to comfort us, to guide us, to have the ability to be a helping hand. Does that make sense? Like a dog, right? Like it can be a nice friendly dog or a mean ugly dog, right? But you give it an opportunity to be one or the other, whether someone's already told you that or whatever. Same for people. And it's always based on our stories that block us from accepting fully what gift is there, what miracle is there, right? Or it's our stories that leave us really open and in a place of surrender to accept it.
Yeah.
But then this just like oddly popped in my head. So help me make this make sense. You have had this beautiful relationship with AI. Like you have been my guiding light ever since I met you, you had started using AI, to help with your podcast. Like you helped me understand like how this could be a tool for comfort in a way, a tool for assistance, a tool.
For creativity is what comes up for me, big time, and to
Yeah.
allow you to remove the blocks that intentionally or unintentionally were set in your path by yourself mostly.
Well, all
And
by yourself.
I
Yeah.
love that you wonder, right? Because AI is something that a lot of people are scared of, and especially in the arts world.
Mm-hmm.
And
Threatened.
yeah, threatened for sure. And also, there's this big divide where artists feel like, if it was created with AI, then it's, doesn't qualify as something creative or artistic. And
Mm.
and it's funny because, for those listening in the audience right now, I released a music album, something that I never thought I would do myself. And I used AI for parts of the process to turn my
Mm-hmm.
lyrics into beautiful sounds. And I started to share the music out, and some people had amazing reactions and feedback. Some people were put back, "Oh, this is AI. I'm not going to listen to it." But funny
Mm-hmm.
enough, some of those people that were put off or don't necessarily, follow anything AI based because it's, not real art, listen to some of my music, and I should read what this guy wrote me. And it's someone I don't know. It's just someone I play some online games with every now and then. And he's like, "Well, I'm really glad I gave your music a chance because after you explain, the process you went through to create this music, it feels just as real as anything else."
Yeah.
And in the creation process for me, Ashley, I'll be honest with you, like I grew up in Eastern Europe during the communist time. I didn't necessarily have opportunities to go to any type of music school, do any music lessons. My caregivers at the time, my parents didn't necessarily believe in, well, either my ability to be able to be a musician of any sorts or have any resources for that. Right. So I feel like a tool like AI, it doesn't matter in which area of life,
Mm-hmm.
can give you access to tap into your creativity and bring it into this, reality illusion, whatever you want to call it, and just give more of yourself. And the only last thing I'll add that you and I talked about a lot is at the same time, it's you're allowing spirit to channel through you
Mm-hmm.
to show up in any form. Because if spirit is using, let's say, a tarot deck, and I have plenty in front of me here that you don't see, but like if it's using a tarot deck to send messages, if it's using a medium to send messages, if it's using, I don't know, your TV to send messages or music, why would it not use AI? Why would it not use every tool available out there?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's what I stand.
No, like I think that's so beautiful. Like me and I think Julie and I were talking on the last episode, or even Evelina. I think I always talk about this. The more and more realization that literally everything, everyone, everything is a tool, including myself, including Ashley, including Constantine. Like when I get sick, spirit can use that as a tool. When I'm super healthy, spirit can use that as a tool. And I remember like you introduced me to AI like more in a, I had a friend introduce me, but it was very like she shared it as like you need to master this is going to change your life. And but it was so overwhelming to me the way she did it, like you have to be an expert at it or else you're going to be late to the game. And it was very much when I was still in that hustle culture that I just shied away. But I remember when you and I started having the conversations, and then Pat and I kind of had the idea for me to start my Big Miracle Energy videos. You know, my videos of me going through my own journey of
Yeah.
unwinding and getting deeper. And we used to say, oh my gosh, chat came out just in time, because if I would have had to write every description, mind you, I didn't have, I didn't have like a pre-script or anything. I just would go on and just
Yeah.
anything that flowed through me. I would have never posted any of those, Constantine, because I would
Same.
have
Yeah.
been, that's not stuff I would have done. And then like you with your music, what immediately comes to mind, and many people would say like, oh, AI chat wrote your descriptions, that's not good enough. It's like, if that's what I needed in order to share and not hold private thoughts, right? Because private thoughts
Yeah.
is holding things back because of blocks. um I mean, it was a massive healing for the mind. And with you and your music, which has been so beautiful, I haven't been able to listen to the entire album, but there's at least 3 or 4 songs, I think, now that you've sent me that I've listened to. And they're just the meaning and the purpose. And I don't know. I have to look at your album. Is there a way you need to put like a video for each song? Because when you actually explain like where it was coming from, where you were at in the moment when you created it, it gives it like a whole new flavor. But
It
EDM
does. It
music,
does.
EDM music is becoming huge. And what is that? That's someone who got like a spinner, right? A spin table, whatever, that you can adjust the music. And they're taking music other people have created, quote unquote, right? I'm going to do this, and just re-putting it together.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
if that is
yeah,
so acceptable,
you're right, because AI like technology has been around for so long. Like, I mean,
yeah,
autotune is the most
auto tune. Or remember when they
common
used to do
example.
lip syncing? Remember that huge debacle?
Yeah, so like that's why, I mean, that's why it's such a great line, right? It's a great area that it goes in. I mean, what it gets a bit tricky is because with the app I have that I'm using to build my music, right? I could literally just, it takes what, 2 minutes to build a song, and you could just take those and keep publishing. I could publish 1,000 songs a day if I wanted to, and that's where the AI slop comes into play, because you see a lot of this happening, right? People making podcasts with AI, just putting in volume versus quality. So the intention is to try to fool the algorithm, fool people so you can make money, right? So at that point, people are getting very fed up with it. And you have a few diamonds in sprinkled throughout that, and people,
But
put them all in the same bucket, so to speak.
But I think, okay, so if we bring this back to like how we started this conversation, not all the way to the chickens, but if everything is a tool used by spirit, then the quote unquote slop stuff is a tool, and them making the money is a tool. So I think what I'm really like is like the all encompassing. It's like you can't choose to say one thing's a tool one day, but
Very true.
something else is not, because I know as well as you do that we've thrown some crap on YouTube that was just like thrown together because we felt we needed to keep up with, posting every day or every
No,
couple
so true.
days.
So true. So true.
And the truth is like spirit can still use that to connect with people because it's all working together for the good. And I think that's the biggest thing to acknowledge is that as long as we live in the mindset of duality, we are going to always see good and bad. You can't have pleasure without pain, and you can't, because they're on the same side as 2 coins. And it's not about, being like, oh, no pain, no gain. And that you should live in this place of like, oh, I'm in pleasure majority of the time, but I'll deal with this pain. I mean, at least where like I'm trying to go, and I think you too, is like the joy, the place that's just you're following spirit all the time. So it's not about seeking pleasure. It's just about following the guidance. And I mean, you have had so many projects, right? Like I was talking to someone the other day when I first found David Hoffmeister. I was like, this guy's got like a million random websites. And I mean, they're not random, they're complete, but there's just tons of them, and
Mhm.
Facebook pages. And it's like the same for you, Constantine. Like every time you evolve, something new is birthed from that deeper resignation, right? Like your podcast, how many people did you have on that? 100?
Yeah, 50, probably something like that. Yeah.
Okay, 50. Well,
No,
whatever.
one,
That's a lot.
150, 150.
150. Holy
Yeah.
crap. So
I know.
half of 300, so you and that was really your time of like I think going deeper into like awareness of how everything operates.
Pretty
And
much.
then
Yeah.
yeah, and then you went on the business building journey and interacting there, and had some opportunities to learn and grow and create I do this some things there. And then now it's music, and I think it's because it's like we're all a tool, right? It like the body that's Ashley is a tool, the body that's Constantine is a tool. So right now the way like the tool that's Constantine is expressing best is through the ability that he never thought he would have. And of course, like exactly when you needed it, right, and were ready for it, it showed up.
Yeah, that part is very interesting to me as well. I mean, like you said, there's always something new that comes up in my field, and I don't always listen, right? Because I mean, whatever the stories are there, but one is, me as fill in the blank. That's not something I've ever seen myself as, right? And me as a producer of music, someone that writes lyrics, any of that, like, it's not something I ever considered in my life, right? So when the first whisper came from spirit, maybe about 6 months ago was the first time maybe more like 8 months, and it came up through the healing sessions I'm conducting still, because I've always leveraged music as part of, be it Reiki healing or my own clear activation healings. And I was like, why don't I have, why don't I have my own music here? Because I never, like, the music was okay, but I never felt like it was a full connection to it in the sessions that I ran for myself or others. And then in meditation, it came through very clear that I should begin looking at it. And I knew AI can help with music. I mean, I knew from a long time ago. But I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And it wasn't until months later when someone in a group, shared the link of something they created with music. And it's almost like, I'll be honest with you, she was like this light bulb moment. Literally, I didn't even listen to her music for the first few minutes of seeing the message. Or this moment came up. It's like, okay, it's time to start. So before I even listened to her music, I just asked, hey, what tools did you use? What was the process like? Then I listened and I'm like, yeah, this makes sense now. And then, funny how things work out, it was around the same time, probably a few weeks earlier, I realized that a lot of the music I was listening to for the last few months was AI created. Because there's a way to tell now more than before.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh shit, okay, so that's funny.
This makes sense.
Right? So like, what, 70% of my playlist was AI generated, or at least a majority of it, right? And so then the process started, right? And I would go into the states where I would meditate with my eyes open. I'll have my one of my journals here, and I would just write some lyrics, some ideas, and then I would refine them, and they would become the lyrics for the songs. And then certain instruments would come to me. And again, I've never had any training in this, any. So then I would go to this tool, put my lyrics in, say, okay, I want to hear piano, I want to hear violin, and these are the things I want, these are the frequencies, these are the type of sounds I want. And then play with it from there, right? Create something and then feel into it. How does it sound? Does it feel aligned? And here's the best part, which I feel like is something I missed so often in the past. And, I'm creating a story around it right now, and there were many before, but the idea that I was creating this for me first. It wasn't because, oh, this is going to get big on Spotify, or it's going to be, this big thing in the future. I was doing it because it felt like the right step. But if I felt a lot of joy and synchronicity and like connection in the moment, and it felt so cool. And I was vibing to the music, and then my partner and I in the car and in the house, and then with friends. All of a sudden, it became for more than just myself, but it started with me, and I was having fun.
Because there is only one here. If we go back to the one, there is only
one,
yeah.
So very interesting overall, to be honest. Like, and the process I feel just started, right? Because it's funny, I started on the journey to create music for my healing sessions, but I haven't done that yet. Because as I create the music, the one with the lyrics wanted to come through, and I'm going to use some of it in my sessions. But what I want to create is music without lyrics, so then people can have their own journeys within, and as they go through the guidance and through the sessions.
But maybe that won't be it. I mean, maybe that's not what spirit has got. I think
true.
It's such a, like, because if we look back to all these different things we've started, I know, like, Ashley has had intentions for it, right? Like when I started Big Miracle Energy, get big. And when Pat and I started our traveling channel, oh, we can maybe make this to, make money off of. And like over and over again, spirit reminds me that, oh, you're not in charge. Like, you have no idea what truly makes you happy. And I had this like dream the other night. I remember waking up from it, and it was like the silliest representation, but it like stuck. Like, it was like I felt it within me. I don't know where I was like in a car or something, and someone said, you don't want to be the shiny plate. I was like, what do you mean the shiny plate? And they're like, well, if you're the shiny plate, you'll be in demand all the time, and then you won't be able to like really just freely move about and just interact and connect with others. If you're the shiny plate, then there's all these extra layers on the top. And I just had this deep acknowledgement of like, oh, Ashley's always been, the body that's Ashley has been seeking the followers, has been seeking the fame, has been seeking the money, has been seeking all of these things.
Mhm.
And what I felt in that was like, it's what I've always felt. I felt this before I started my business group. I felt this when I was a little girl. When I was in my business training, like they challenged me and they were like, why can't you have both? And then my ego took me down a rabbit hole. But to live really small but really big. And what that meant was like small in the aspect of not having a lot, whether it's items, money, notoriety, but just living like all you need is what you need in a way. But the impact being so big and the connections being so big, and that like I've always had that's the best way I can explain it at
Yep.
words, like ego level words, but I've always had that feeling. And I think, you know, I said, you and I both have started all these projects. Like even recently, Constantine, I have an Etsy shop now. I had a friend, like she told me she started an Etsy shop. We're here, there's so much vintage shopping in Spokane, and I love thrifting. It's like a treasure hunt. It's just
It
fun, and
is.
you interact with people, and you just, it's just a whole new world on its own. Like Pat and I, we went to our first estate sale and met this lady who refurbishes furniture, and connection. And my friend was telling me about this Etsy shop she started, and I was like, oh, that means I could go vintage shopping, make a little money, and like fill my need, because we don't have a home. Like I can't vintage shop, and like I don't have a space for anything to go to. So like now I have an Etsy shop, and in that same week I was super sick and started a podcast. This, light between us. And so if we latched on to the story that I think we were taught to, which is choose one thing and do it really well.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah, right? Like think of how many people, my friend Julie, Julie, she
I never met
is
Julie.
a,
You've talked a lot about her, but I need to meet
yeah,
her
oh
one
yeah,
day.
you haven't actually okay, well, we're gonna set up a meeting with Julie and you. But she was a transition coach, or is a transition coach, and she helps people that are transitioning out of careers that like have, like major careers that they like maybe even have master's degrees or PhDs, and like completely shifting somewhere else and moving through those stories of like, you spent all this money to become this, you've worked your way up in this company to become, like, you can't just all of a sudden, go sell shit on Etsy. You can't. And even like my business, and people are like, oh, where's your business at? It should be, whatever it should be. And it's like, oh, it's sustaining, right? Like, I don't even feel like I have a business. I don't like, we've talked about turning it into like a church or something, because it does not feel, it just is. It's just a part of whatever. Nothing has like this significant outcome anymore, if that makes sense. Like it's,
Mhm.
I don't know. Now I'm going to start to ramble, but you get what I'm saying. And if we
I do.
live that mentality, like there's so many things you and I would have never done, because we'd be
Well, I
stuck
mean,
way back at you'd still be having 17. You'd have 1,700 people on your podcast by now.
the podcast was the same way. It started like me as a podcaster. I never ever considered doing anything like that. And but the music is the best example, because I was going down a different path with my business, and then all of a sudden this comes up, and I rejected it, and I refused to see it for a while, right, until it was so obvious that this would be something for me to try,
Mm-hmm.
and I tried it. And in the same vein, writing a book is up there as well these days. But it's interesting because I haven't written. I wrote like 10,000 words like the first time this came through, like in November, December, and then I didn't write anything else.
Maybe it was just
And
for
when it comes,
the
it
one.
comes, right? It's like what you said with find the one thing that you do good and keep doing that. Like I feel like that's a huge, huge, huge way to attempt to control the situation, to be in your ego all the time, because that's implying that 100% that's what you came here to do, and there's nothing else. And I'm sure that there's a small percentage that's true for them, perhaps. But there's so many amazing stories out there of people that have looked outside the box for a second and then they found miracles that they would have never expected. And I mean, we all have these in our life examples, right? You have plenty, I have plenty, and I'm sure those listening have so many themselves of when you took a left turn instead of keep going right or straight ahead, and all of a sudden, miracles just unfolded.
Well, I mean, we're always everything is a miracle always. That something's gone astray if you're no longer witnessing the miracles. And I think like a caveat to anyone listening is like we're not saying jump around, but if you have the mentality that I need to stick with this, then you're not open to like the opportunities that come and the guidance from spirit. And so whether I start a job or a purpose or a career or whatever it may be that you're using this mentality with at the age of 15 and have it till I die at 95, or I do 5 million different projects, as long as I did it following the guidance and not believing a heavyweight story either way, that's what we're talking about here. And if we wouldn't have trusted the guidance that came and stuck to that story I brought up, then we, wouldn't have followed with ease these things. It would have still happened because I think everything's unfolding exactly as it's meant to. And, this goes into deep metaphysical conversations that if anybody's interested, we have had many of them on both of our YouTube channels. Unleash Thyself, I will tag here, and Big Miracle Energy. But for purpose sake of just staying on a lighthearted conversation, yeah, it's going to be so painful, right? If you're not meant to stay in that place and you're trying so hard to stay there, it's going to be painful and painful. And even in your book, this is so funny. So this goes into the AI piece too, as we had that beautiful conversation and you had showed me, what's it called? Notebook? Yeah, Notebook. And how, right?
Oh, Notebook
Notebook.
Lamb, the Google one, yes.
Yeah, how amazing it was. So you had like stuck our conversation in there, and then you asked it questions about writing your book, and your book was about pretty much like trust the process. Don't make a plan, just let it like things unfold. Like I'm very generalizing. And the AI person was like, and a reminder that you should write the book exactly as the book is explaining how to live things. And you're like, oh snap, AI even like held a mirror to me.
Well, exactly, right? Because it's once
Because
you're
you
in
were
it,
trying
it's
to
harder
plan it
to
out.
see, right? Like if you pull yourself out a bit, you can see it a lot easier. And the sunk cost fallacy is real for many people, for most people, I should say.
The what?
I think it's called the sunk cost fallacy, right? Like when
What's that mean?
because let me actually read you the definition. So it's what is it? It's a cognitive bias that leads individuals to continue investing in a decision based on the cumulative prior investment, time, money, or effort, rather than on future benefits. This fallacy often results in irrational decision making, as people feel compelled to justify their past investments, even when it would be more beneficial to cut their losses and move on. This is particularly prevalent in investments, where individuals may hold on to underperforming assets due to the amount already spent. To overcome this fallacy, one should focus on current and future costs and benefits rather than past expenditures. Now, I mean, you and I have talked about this without naming it for a while, right? Like, when I spend those insane amount of money on like coaching that never went anywhere, or programs that never went, and directions for my business, for example, that didn't necessarily feel aligned, but I felt like because I invested so much money and time, and because these people are experts, quote unquote, that I should continue down this path. And that's what led me to spending more money, being more miserable. And eventually, like, was it like March, April last year, I just put a stop to all of it. I said, you know what? I need to go back to the basics for a second. And that's, then stories happened in my life. And now I'm making music and writing a book. And I have a healing modality that came out of all of this, right? And it's like, take a step back as much as you can, see what we can release, and listen. And I guess a lot this, and maybe we'll take the discussion in direction if you want, but I've come to realize more recently is that there's a lot of direction one gets in life. There's a lot of connection and communication with the other side. If you listen or you don't, that's okay. And I don't know what the fallacy is called in this regard, but there's a thing where, like, I guess it's almost like spiritual bypassing in a way, but you just go for more messages, for more direction, for more clarity. Like, I used to be a stage where I would do tarot every day and then not take any action. So then everything gets kind of like in this limbo state. So then what do you do? Right? Like, it's like nothing progresses in a way. And I mean, maybe that's part of the journey, maybe not. I mean, it always is part of the journey, I should say. But it may not feel like that for you, right? In the moment. And I know for me, it was like, oh shit, like I should probably take some action at some point. And with the music is such a great example because I created the music and I was on the last few songs and then I kind of was not doing much with it. And one of my peers, my friends, he told me a story. He's like, hey, I had some people over. He's a very spiritual person like I am. And we held a silent meditation for like 10 minutes. And at the end of the meditation, I played one of your songs. And I told people to just listen and just be with it. Like, and then he's like, at the end of that, quite a few of them were like, wow, that was an amazing song. Like, who's the artist? Like, where can I listen to this? And my friend was like, well, it's from my friend Constantine, but it's not live yet. You can't find it anywhere. And he's the one that kind of gave me the kick, and he's like, why don't you just publish it? What doesn't need to be perfect? Just put it out there. You never know who is supposed to reach.
Yeah.
And that kind of gave me the impetus to be like, okay, let's take some action. Because I was delaying it because I had all these stories. I need to, find out a distributor, and I need to pay for it, and I need to do all these things. I didn't want to do those things. There was some story there.
But I think this is where I'm at. And I know sometimes this is where our conversations can get very like, not adversarial, that would be a way wrong word, but where we're just like more inquisitive of each other's views. But, Evelina asked me on one of her podcasts about like following God's script, right? Following the right script, following the way, following spirit. And I've come to this decision that you can't not follow it, right? You're always exactly on the track you're supposed to be. Everything is happening exactly as it should. You're not delaying anything. You're not speeding anything up. The only thing is your perception of it. So your song was never going to be published until the day it was published, but the stories that you had going in your head just didn't need to be there, right? It could have been a much more easeful, enjoying experience prior to it. But because there was these stories of this belief of what was holding you back, because now, like, I've really been experiencing this more and more. It's like as the veil gets thinner, like you said a minute ago, like you hear more messages. You have deeper knowingness. Because hear messages, people are like, well, I don't hear that. But you have this deeper knowingness. It may come through, conversation. It may come through sparkly objects. Julie and I talked about that in the last podcast. It may come through, whatever it may be. But you have this deeper and deeper connection to the movie, to remembering the movie script. And so I think that's what's happening. I think you're remembering that, what's going to happen, like you're going to create this song, but it's not going to be published for like 2 months, right? And so the ego always wants to be in control. And how does the ego think it's in control? It has a story. So because the veil is thin and you know it's not going to be published right away, even though you know it's ready, right? So then the ego wants to come up with a story to make it that it's you responsible for it. And of course, the ego, if there's a shame and guilt story to be had, that's the first story that's going to be chosen, right? Is the shame and guilt story. So yeah, so then that's what, it was never going to be released till it was released. The thing that I think we have control over is our perception of it, meaning we can truly just be in the present moment, which the present moment holds no stories at all. It has the true belief and trust that everything is happening exactly as it's going to, exactly as it should, and your little chatter in your brain is the only thing clouding you from witnessing the miracles. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? Because like it's very
You
like
are. I mean, I would say the only area I differ slightly in terms of my own belief system and what I've been shown or seen, let's put it this way. Like you said, the present moment is, it just is. There's nothing tied to it. Like there's no story, there's nothing. It just is.
It can't be.
And the way, what I believe to be the case is that there's an infinite amount of potentials leading into the present moment and an infinite amount of potentials from the present moment. It's almost like different timelines, infinite amount of timelines, and one can jump through. So I personally believe that I'm sure there's many timelines in which this music was released a long time ago, and in some timelines it never got released. The movie I decided to watch right now is the movie in which I released it on January 7th under the band name Journey Back to One, right? Maybe there's another timeline where it gets released on January 1st and it's a different name, right, under my name. I don't know. But the end result, like the final destination, is always the same. Right. It's how you get there, in my opinion, or my belief, I should say, that it's not that you have control over, but like you get to choose which story you're watching, more or less. I want to watch, frame A from this potential future and frame B from the next one. And it's almost like when you watch a movie, you're watching the director's cut, essentially, right? The director cut that and they want you to see it. But then sometimes when you buy a DVD, they have multiple versions of it, right? There's, cut scenes and there's, alternate endings and alternate scenes in it.
Yeah.
And I see life very much the same as well.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying there. My light went out. I don't know.
I noticed that in the middle of it.
I'm like, what is happening? I mean, yeah. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, if we're truly both like, okay, let's live in the present moment, then multiple timelines don't matter, or you know what I mean? Like, because it's all same. I'm gonna see if I can get it back on. But it's all like same all the time, right? You know what I mean? It doesn't change any of that at all, ever.
Oh yeah.
So I think like that's the thing that really like is so interesting as well, that statement of, nothing ever changes than ever, because then like even the ego wanting us to like have these conversations or beliefs is the belief in like different opportunities to manipulate it in the way we want it to be. So then it still like gives us that quote unquote carrot, that we're always seeking. Yeah. Do you know what am I making sense? I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to get this light back on.
That's okay. Don't worry about it. I mean, it still looks fine. It's not
okay.
a big deal.
Light between us just got dark.
It did. For a second. I mean, who knows what I was saying in the moment, and he wanted to highlight that. And yeah, I don't know. Actually, I mean, following this doctrine of wanting to be or being in the present moment more, especially since I made this move into let's call it a calmer space, less energetic chaos in a way. It's been a lot more eye opening in that regard because I've done less things that I'm supposed to do, and I'm happier than ever. I'm in a better spot than ever in many
Yeah.
areas of life, right? And it's like part of my own stories here is like fighting me really hard because it's like, well, how can you continue like this? Because then you're not going to have A, B, and C, and you're going to, not be successful or not have the type of job you have or whatever the case might be. Because for whatever reason, it's not following the script that I was told I have to follow. And the stories of, my caregivers, my teachers, whoever, people in the world, so to speak. Right. So it's very interesting to observe that and to see how much weight we give stories, especially
Bad
those
and
resonating
good.
from others. Yeah, of course.
I think that's the conundrum too, is like, again, earlier how we talked about like you can't accept one if not the other, So it's like when we're like, okay, because you and I've had this conversation, it was like really eye-opening for you and me when we realized like personal development, for example, is all about taking a bad story and turning it good, right? Like there's even books like Flip the Script, uh, what is it, like change the stories of your parents for the future generations.
Yeah.
And yeah, not that that's bad. I think that's a part of the stepping stone. But the truth is, like, if you're willing to accept the good stories, that actually means you're still willing to accept the bad stories. I mean, no story is bad or good. That's a perspective. But it's really about relinquishment of all stories, good and bad, but just to be like this free vessel
100%.
that, I mean, think of a child and, they grow stories quite quickly and remember them, but they still are so much freer from it, right? Like they'll walk around picking their nose or naked in front of the postman. I remember, oh my gosh. So, oh, he might kill me, but I don't know if he probably won't ever listen to this podcast. But when he was little, like his bedroom door was by the door going outside, and he was taking a nap. But he was so sneaky, and all of a sudden we're in the living room. It's a tiny 700 square foot house. It was our first home, and he was like 2, maybe 3. He was still 2, 1.5, 2. He was walking, and he was still in like transitioning out of diapers and learning how to go to the bathroom. Well, he had spent some time up at my mom's house, and she lives on a farm. So she was teaching, like, you just teach boys, like, just go outside and pee, right? Because it's fun. So it's like, okay, this is your potty training. All of a sudden, we hear this guy wailing on his horn outside. And I look outside, and there is my son standing at the end of the driveway. He's not in the road, but he's literally standing at the end of the driveway facing the street, peeing into the street.
Oh, how beautiful.
Yeah. And he saw nothing wrong with it, right? He didn't see it dangerous. He didn't see it inappropriate. He didn't see it as being sneaky. He just was like, I had to go to the bathroom. And like, you know what I mean? Like, so it just goes to show you how impactful stories are, when you look at a kid, good or bad.
Of course.
Because he was using a good story. Oh, I'm going to learn to go to the bathroom. And then because of the perspective, like being near the road, all these other stories that were bad stories, it like negated the good story. So I don't know. I had to share that because that was just one of those moments where you're like,
Yeah, for sure.
what?
Yeah.
As a parent, you were like, what? Like, is this what I signed up for? Like, what is this?
What an epic story. I love it.
Yeah.
I don't know, Ashi. I mean, it's a beautiful journey, and I don't know what I'm learning these days, or I'm remembering rather, is that as much chaos as there is externally, or we think there is, or we believe there is, there's only so much you can make it internally, and it's always with your permission, your perspectives, your stories, whatever you allow in, and it's interesting. I mean, I don't know, like these days, you look at the news, right? Like you could definitely have a pretty bad outlook on life, and
Yeah.
especially if you're struggling right now, you're not in a good spot, what financially, mentally, emotionally, any of it, it can feel like what's the point of all of it? And I trust me, I've been there, and I still am there at times.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because I pull myself out of the present moment, and I allow stories of the past to shape up my future or potential future.
Yeah.
And I don't always catch myself. I mean, heck, I mean, it was even as early as like last week sometime. I was going through one of these. I was like, what's the point of all of this? Like,
Mm.
it doesn't matter in the end anyway. Um,
Yeah.
so I know people go through that a lot. And perhaps, nah, this may be generalization, but I've seen people that have opened up more to the path of awakening, struggling with this aspect quite a bit. And like you
Mm-hmm.
said, your friend Julie is a transition coach, right? Like I feel like we're always in an opportunity of transition from
Mm.
old stories to
No
hopefully not
stories.
just new stories, but no stories rather would be
Yeah.
right. Releasing, and that's what like spirit keeps showing me with this clear activation thing I do on myself and others. It's like it's not about of bringing new stories in. It's about letting go of story after story after story until there's nothing to cover who you
Yeah.
truly are. Because there is no
Yeah.
story for who you are.
Mm.
You just are, and
You
the
just.
more you let go of those stories, the more your true self can show up. And it's almost like the analogy they showed me many times is this: imagine you are in a very very cluttered room. I mean, I'm sure many of us have seen those at least clips of those shows like Hoarders, where
Orders.
literally
Yeah.
there's like piles of like garbage like feet high, and you have to walk through on top of it. And
Mm.
imagine there's like a a golden ring somewhere in that house, and you are the golden ring, your true self. There's a
Mm.
lot of stuff you have to remove before you can find it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I think, the good and the bad, like we talked about, personal development is about creating the good story, but those stories are all there. You only experience those stories because they're already there. So if we really look at it, like you said, it's this process of removal. So when you've let go of one story, a new one comes to take its place, and then you let go of that story, and then eventually you get to the space of no story. And I remember you used to say it as you have to experience both sides of the coin to find the middle. And it's not about the middle, it's about the relinquishment of the coin, period. I used to see it as like the balance, finding balance. But I think we've talked about this before, that what I've come to find out, there balance would mean you have something on each side, right? It would mean that's the only way to balance. But what if instead it's about like the middle of like there is no sides anymore? It just, like you said, it's that middle space of it just is. It's not about finding balance, because balance will carry a little bit of this story and a little bit of this story. You don't want that either. You want complete relinquishment of all stories to be the clear vessel for spirit to work through, right? Like spirit doesn't make sense. And some of our greatest, what we've seen as victories have been some of our greatest retreats, and some of our greatest victories, we've felt like they were our greatest retreats. So, and it's all because of our stories. And so we can truly witness what it is when we just allow it to be exactly as it is, which everything is a miracle and everything is joyous. So yeah, it's not going to be
But,
pain, but it's not going to be pleasure.
but if you think about, I mean, what you just said that is brilliant, because going back to the analogy of the hoarder's house, right? The picture we have from the various shows and stuff is that you have little garbage everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wrappers and empty bottles and peace bottles and empty food containers and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what if you replace those with unopened chocolate bars and unopened, um, I don't know, like let's say bags of chips, and
Mm.
replace
Yeah,
all the garbage with something that's not garbage in your mind.
it's
I mean,
still
you replace the
hoarding,
bad story with a good story. The diamond you're looking for is still somewhere you won't
hidden.
find. you still have to remove. So then let's say you take a piece of the chocolate, the good stuff, you eat it, now you have the wrapper, you're gonna have to discard of it. Back in the pile it goes. Now did you make it, is it better now, worse? Right? So like that's why, like, to your point, like, it's, if we get this battle of like, I need to replace my best stories with good stories, then you are likely going to be trapped in there for a long time. Because a good story is only good because of your perspective right now and all the other stories you have. And then as you adjust a couple of other stories, all of a sudden some of the good stories you have are no longer good anymore.
Yeah.
And an example, a silly example that comes up to mind for me is like, I thought the status was important, and financial success was important because I never had much. And I remember my grandparents talking about always showing up better than you technically are on paper, right? And you hear this a lot with people going to debt to maintain a lifestyle that they don't necessarily can afford. And I a long time ago now, about 10 years ago now, I bought an expensive sports car. And it was nice. I love the car. But to be honest, it's more to show off than anything else, right? Because I could see, people in the parking lot taking pictures with it, and my friends, wanted to ride in it and whatnot. And it made me feel good on the surface, right? But then what tends to happen in those situations? That, good story, so to speak, turns sour pretty quickly. Because it's like it didn't bring you the joy or satisfaction you thought it would bring you. Because now you have new stories around it, and you're like, now the story is not positive anymore. I sold the car a few years later, right? And now, do I have a good story about it? Do I have a best story? I have a mix of stories because I enjoyed riding the car. I enjoyed having fun with it, but I also saw let's call them the negative sides of it. Let's call it the financial burden, or I don't know, the pollution in the world, or how it made me feel, as a status symbol or whatever the case. And that's like anything else in life. Like, can we detach ourselves from any of the stories and be like, yeah, it's just part of what I had to go through to remember.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that I need to remember.
Yeah. And like it's not that the stories necessarily go away. It's like you're talking about. It's like you're just witnessing them as not a part of you, but like externally, and acknowledging that everything's happening exactly as it's meant to, and it's happening for the good. We were talking in Lighthouse the other day, and I said, you won't experience pain when you see the purpose. Like, if you see a purpose in something, you won't experience pain. And it's like, even if it's like a fleeting moment, right? Like, if you're in a moment of feeling pain or sad or anger, and you can find remember the purpose, the pain goes away. Well, so many people would say then, oh, Ashley, then there's purpose in the pain. No, 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 no. That's not what I'm saying. Like, I'm saying that if you know the purpose, there's never pain. There's also never happiness. It's just constant joy. Like, if you just know everything is purposeful, period, always, never ending, and the purpose is that of peace and joy, then you don't experience the duality roller coaster at all, because it's all the same. And, last year, my word of the year was same, same. And Pat and I remember got those shirts that say same, same, but different. We did not have them made. We randomly found them on our last day in Chiang Mai. Which my friend is there right now. I wonder if she'll end up seeing them at the same market, but that's besides the point. But that's what like people mean when they say same, same, but different, is like literally everything has the same purpose, but it may appear different to your five senses. What Constantine appears to be going through may appear different. Yeah, we can find similarities like money stories and whatever. And that's how personal development has become a billion-dollar industry, because it's found those common ego level threads to then that be the focus, instead of it's actually let's take that even a next level. And the next level is like same, same. Because if you think of, intimate relationship issues, alcohol issues, gambling issues, any of those are actually all the same, right? It all has to do with relationship with something outside of you in your five senses, your belief in that relationship with it and what it's providing you or not providing you, right? Because like we were talking about alcohol the other day, because I feel like that's such a thing for people, whether you drink or you don't drink, whether you want to keep drinking or want to stop drinking, right? There's so many stories tied to how do I look to other people? Who can I hang out with? Where can I go? Oh my gosh, when can I drink? What can I drink? How can I drink? All of this, when in fact, it's just another tool. Like if we take this full circle where everything's a tool, it's just a tool. So it has a purpose. So really, you can be in this state of not experiencing any sort of heaviness around it if you just see it as the same as everything else. It's the moment that we make something quote unquote special, which I know there's a huge movement like in the Christianity to look at the idols that we've made in money, and anything you place before, God or the divine or Jesus, you will lose, will perish, because it doesn't actually exist. And that's what's happening in the process of those stories taking over, is like we've found something external to us and we've made it an idol, and that's how it's has the ability to make us super happy, not joyful, but like happy, elation, dopamine hit, or super sad and depressed, because it again has hold over us.
100%. And I feel like we've all been there so many times. And,
Yeah.
For me, at times it's surprising how it can show up out of nowhere, seemingly, despite how much quote unquote knowledge we have or how much remembrance we've gone through.
Yeah.
And it still comes up.
Well, I mean, that damn hoarder house, there's a lot of shit in there. You gotta clean. I mean, it's like, and you moved recently. It's like you open a closet and you start packing the boxes from the closet, and you're like, I swear, every time I turn around, it multiplied more. Like there's, 10 more boxes to
so
come
much
out.
stuff in that house over just a few years, and I'm like, how is it even possible, right? And
right. But
and
it's the
it's funny
same
actually,
thing.
because that's immediately as I say that, the image that came up for me is the same with our stories, right? It's like we keep saving these stories, we keep collecting stories, and putting them in our closets, and then when we run into something, we open the closet, be like, which story fits here? And all of a sudden we are overwhelmed with so much coming out. And if we were to just clean, those stories in a way, like release anything that's no longer serving you, easier to navigate many situations.
Well, and I think, oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, like, the other image, as soon as I say it, it's funny how it happens sometimes. It's almost like Spirit's like, no, that's not the point. It's almost like the vision I just got was that the only reason you run into something in your life is because it's giving you an opportunity to release the story.
That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say it's no longer about like it's about seeing the purpose in it, right? Like when all of a sudden these stories come tumbling out, it's do you shove everything back in, that picture, like if we're in this hoarder's house, shove it all in and slam the door, right? And hope like the door stays shut, or are you like, all right, this has been brought to me for the purpose, like you just said, of release. And the ego wants me to latch on, right? So your ego belief system has believed in this. It's like a baby to the belief system. So it's going to do everything it can to like hold on to it. And a lot of times that's discomfort, right? It's going to create discomfort. So you try to run the other way. And it's not about forcing your way through it either. Like we're not here to seek quote unquote pain. But it's about just seeing it for what it is. Like, this is just a story. The only reason why I'm uncomfortable right now is because I'm believing in this story and I have an opportunity to hand this story over. And for me, that's where prayer comes in, and trust, and, you know, connecting. For me, it's Jesus, connecting with the Holy Spirit and Jesus, and acknowledging, like, here's the story I have. I'm handing it over, because my belief is that, like, nothing's going to come rip your stories from you. But I believe that there is, you know, Jesus and the Holy Spirit that is willing to heal those stories, to take them, but you have to be willing to hand it over. You know, I always picture the biblical image of Jesus's hand in the water for Peter. You know, Peter's drowning, and it's not that Jesus jumped in and is swimming and he's like, I got your ass, bay watching it. You know, he's not bay watching him up to the freaking sand. He's just like, here. He only puts his hand in, you know, I'm viewing The Chosen for anyone watching, but he only puts his hand in about like up to the elbow, not even. And is like, if you got to come to me, man. Like, I've extended this, but I can't force it on you. I can't force the save. I can't force the belief. And so that's how I see it. Like, that's my only job, is to be willing to hand it over to. And so many times we've talked about this too. Like, you can feel like you're willing, but if you're still in discomfort, you still have latched. You're still holding on, right? Like, you're still a little bit like, yeah, maybe I still need this story a little bit.
Yeah, and I resonate with that 100%. And the way it was shown to me was that if you think of any one story you have in your life, it never originated with you. It was always someone else's story that you latched onto and combined a few different stories, and you made your own stories, which means there are different perspectives on them, right? So our ego is very good at not wanting to let go of anything that it perceives to be of our own creation. So if all these stories are now ours, why would you want to ever let them go and release them? And it's likely the stories kept you safe, right? Which is the job of the ego in part.
Yeah.
So what if the first step in the process, and that's exactly what you're talking about, maybe in a different way, but what if the first step in the process is to allow yourself to shift perspective on, or not just shift, sorry, rather like allow yourself to see where the story originates, to see the story from an angle of no judgment, to see the story for what it actually is. And in that moment, if you can do that, and there are many ways one can do that in, then all of a sudden your attachment to it evaporates. And if my attachment to something evaporates, that means I'm much more willing to give it away or give it up.
Yeah,
So
it's just,
then
it's
releasing it back to spirit, right? To Jesus.
well, and that's the mirror effect, right? That's why it's like the 2x2. That's why I created this podcast. I mean, I think some massive awareness for at least me has come in just the conversations you and I've had. I remember when we decided, like, let's just start recording our conversations on YouTube, because both of us were having such just like aha moments, just having like what we're having right now. I mean, like, anybody tuning in, like, this isn't a show for you. This is literally how Constantine and I talk for hours, even if it's, you know, just the two of us. And so that's the 2x2. That's the mirror, right? So like when we were talking about this in Lighthouse again about like, say you're sick. Say you come home and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sick. I feel like crap. And your partner's like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay, get on the couch. Let me get you some blankets and some food, you know, like really feeding into quote unquote your story. Like, you're going to feel even sicker and sicker. I promise you that. But if you come home and you're like, man, I feel sick, and your partner doesn't even acknowledge you said it. Yes, if you have some other stories, those may be triggered, like, oh, they don't care, all of this, and the opportunity to release them, right? But I'm sick is a freaking story, right? Because you're not the body. So the body may appear to be sick and you're only experiencing it because you believe in that story. So if your partner doesn't believe in it, you'll forget about it as long as you're not wrapped in another story of like no one cares about me. But literally, it's like the statement of, what's it, the cat in the box, is it dead or alive? It's neither until
Yes.
there's an observer, right? And so, like, you're the cat. Are you dead or alive? Well, I'm neither until there's an observer of me being dead or alive. So the mirror concept is like when we come in with our stories and we're sharing them together, and the other person doesn't quote unquote feed into it, but instead mirrors back what they're hearing. That's how like the 2x2 method works, and how like our conversations have been so powerful, I think, because you were in a different place in your journey and I was in a different place. Like, I remember you even saying, like, the first time you met me, what'd you say? You said either I gotta this lady's onto something or she's damn crazy, right? Was it like,
Something like that. Yeah, not for sure.
yeah, that's what you've said before, but you felt this, like, I was like a sparkly object, right? Like, you still
Mm.
felt called to connect with me, even though, like, part of you was like, she's pretty crazy, but, and then over time, we have continued to evolve, and the questions we ask each other become those mirrors of the stories we're telling ourselves. And there's been so many moments of like, oh, yeah, why am I thinking that? You know what I mean?
100%. I'm with you.
Like last time, our last call, I was like, at the end, I was like, oh my God, I got frustrated with you, Constantine. And it was nothing to do with you and everything to do with the mirror you were being about this podcast, and how like I was, putting blockades on it and making all these stories about it that I thought I wasn't in anymore. But when you mirrored to me that I was frustrated with you, which gave me an opportunity to see like, oh, I always know it's not outside me. So it wasn't you. It was really what was going on within me that I wasn't willing to look at. And I wouldn't have seen it if I wouldn't have hopped on a call with you.
Yeah, that's a beautiful example. I mean, it's funny you mentioned it because I was really thinking about that. Was it this morning or last night?
Our
Like,
call or the mirror method?
no, like all of it. I'll explain in a second what I mean. So, Andra and I used to like to go to the casino as one of the things we do, like a night out. Because I used to be a professional poker player, and
Oh yeah, I
I
forgot
have
that.
fun playing some cards. So I taught her how to play some. This was back like 8 years ago when we got together. And the first, 6, 8, 7 months we would go to the casino. But then I kind of, like, we allowed it to get a bit too much. We would go there too often, so we cut back. And then we stopped going. And then we moved to this place that we're at, and there's a casino like half an hour away, so a bit farther away than the previous one used to be. Anyway, so we started going, a day here and there, mostly on the weekends. And we were there last night.
Hmm?
And we either play poker or we play craps. Just the games that have the least amount of house edge, just to have some fun and have a night out. And for the first time in a long time, I was kind of guy to take a step back and just observe the people in the casino and the behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And the poker game that we play, called Ultimate Texas Hold'em, or craps for that matter, doesn't even matter which game you play in the casino. They're always going to have at least a slight casino edge. Something like roulette has a bit more. But there are optimal strategies one can play, same as blackjack and other of the popular games.
Mm-hmm.
And at least in the games that her and I play, we've never, in the years that we've played in the casinos, and I've been to Vegas and I've been to the ones here and other places, I've never seen anyone attempt to play at an optimal level. And it's interesting to me because I was sitting there and I was like, okay, so why do people come here? What are they escaping? Or what's the motivator behind? So I started to observe more and more people as they were playing, as I was sitting down, because this is not a big casino, but it had like 8 tables and it has the slots machines and all of it. And it's, all of a sudden, it's kind of like it transported me to like this different realm almost where I don't know though they are searching for something but can't find it, and they're trapped in this maze of like, one more bet, one more hand, one more die throw. And it made me think about like how every single set of cards that comes down, every single throw of a dice or a bet you make, it's just an opportunity for a mirror to look back and say, what's this mirroring back through my life? And because you're talking about just this, like like you need a moment of our conversation, but in many cases that would have probably been missed. Like if it was me, I'm probably gonna miss that a few times, and then it keeps showing up in a different way. And if I'm at a casino and I'm playing here, like, and if I'm not in the moment, right? Let's say I'm worried about like losing or winning or whatever the case might be, and for me it happens often now, not often, but it happens enough times where I'm like, what's going on here? Like, what's the story? If I came out to have fun with Andra, then can I be in the moment? It doesn't matter if I win or lose the bet. I'll be okay.
Yeah.
And yet, as I'm telling you this right now, I'm realizing that that's part of my story I need to work through, because it's not the case yet. It's still like in the back of my mind, it still dictates a bit of like, no, I really need to win every bet.
Because you're focused on the outcome, so you can't be in the present, right? Like your action is only based on the outcome. And I think, you said it so beautifully earlier, like it's always the same exact outcome in the end, quote unquote, right?
Yeah.
So if we see it that way, then isn't everything always the same purpose? And the outcome doesn't actually matter in the seemingly present moment per se.
Yeah.
Because
So
it's all the...
that's
Go ahead.
funny you mentioned that, because now I'm realizing, so one thing that Spirit is highlighting for me right now is like me placing judgment on someone's desire to play optimally so they lose the least amount of money or they make the most amount of money. What if their whole intention for playing is to just be in the present moment and have fun? Because at that point, it doesn't matter if you're playing your hands perfectly or not. In fact, Andra and I had a conversation on the drive back last night where there's an optimal strategy for the poker game and there's a fairly optimal strategy for craps and blackjack or whatever. But let's say the poker game, that's the only one that she plays. But then she's like, you know what? My intuition sometimes tells me to play a card that I would normally not play, or not play a card that I normally don't play. And I struggle to, pick and choose when to listen to my intuition or not. And then it dawned on me, like as we were talking, I'm like, wait a second. So us sticking to, let's say, the rule book and playing as optimal as possible is us looking to control the situation as much as possible. And the outcome, right? Like to your point.
Yeah, the outcome.
But if we detached and combine that knowledge with our innate intuitive ability and allow spirit in, how magical can that be?
I would take you to another level, Constantine, of like just fully surrendering all of it. Don't even like act like you have, because if you even... So I'm not telling people to throw out knowledge you have, but it's about your intention behind it. So your intention behind it was to pair yourself with spirit, right? Use spirit's powers and your powers. That can't work because your powers are based out of the ego. It's a story you created within the ego. And love and fear can't coexist, right? So instead it's about... It's not even like... If we're taking a moment of awareness, it is, you can acknowledge, yeah, I have all this history of poker or whatever, and I have this knowledge. Great. But it's about just following your intuition 24, like all of the time. Right. And like, this would be a really good conversation for you to have with Patrick because of what he does and like trading and how he integrates spirit, but also the knowledge, quote unquote, he has. But it's knowing that spirit can use your knowledge as a tool. So it's not about disregarding the knowledge, but it's not about making them on equal playing ground, right? Like, because it's almost like you were choosing, like, okay, Constantine has to use his knowledge, and then it'll let intuition to come in sometimes. No, it's instead the opposite. Intuition always, knowing spirit will use my knowledge how it needs to, but it's me trusting the intuition and the guidance.
But here, so yeah, maybe I need to talk to Patrick about this, because here's where the conversation went, and I don't have an answer myself yet. But like for me, for example, I'll have these intuitive hits, and I'm getting better and better at discerning what is what. But especially in like let's call it a gambling situation, or like, you know, even when I was playing professional poker, it's less gambling and more player based. How can you discern between what's ego driven, being in fear based, and what's intuition based? So like, oh, I should bet here. What if that's based on a story from ego that, you know, has to do with like, well, on paper this should be the best play, blah blah blah, fill in the blanks. Or the opposite, like you get a hit that you shouldn't play this hand, or you shouldn't toss a die there, or shouldn't put this bet, but you can't tell if it's ego or spirit.
Well, I think if you're asking that question, that's your first kicker, because when you're in the present moment, you don't question it. It just is, it just unfolds. And the biggest piece too, I think, when it comes to like gambling or poker or trading or whatever, is you have to follow the rule. Like if you're following spirit, then you're trusting. And what does trust mean? Trust means that you could be guided to lose your ass and lose your entire savings and everything else. But that's it. If you are truly inspired, like you can experience all that from a place of peace, because everything is happening exactly as it's meant to, in order to remind you of the truth. Like if I would have, you know, if we would have had this conversation in the midst of you, all that business stuff and all the money you went through, or if we were having this conversation back when I was going through the same thing, it would look very different. We were in very state of wanting to control and fear, and we gave this an anger and all of that because we didn't get a specific outcome, and we invested all this money, and we believed that we could invest it only because we had a belief that we would 10x it or whatever, right? Like that's Grant Cardone, like 10x rule, but whatever it may be. But I think like you can't have any of that. So being a poker player, you know, going and playing poker, your intention is, there is no intention other just than I'm in spirit, right? Like you can't go there with the intention to win money. You can't go there with the intention to have, you know, fun per se, in the manner of like fun as it being anything else but peace and joy, right? Like, I mean, external dopamine, happiness, fun, like that. But you just go, and then everything becomes joyous because everything has a purpose. So you see, like when you lose, it's not experienced as loss, and when you win, it's not as experienced as gain. Everything just always is same but different. And we've had this conversation before. Like a lot of people would be like, well, then life's pretty boring. What am I even doing here? But the body, Ashley's going to seamlessly continue to do the things she's going to do. It's just like, do I want to experience this joyously, or do I want to experience this with ups and downs all the time? And that's your choice. Like you not listening to your intuition is not going to change how you play your poker game. By choosing to listen to the intuition is not, has nothing to do with picking a card or not. I know that's what she brought up, but it was her perception of it. It was her grappling, her questioning the move she did, and she should have done a different move, instead of just trusting the move that unfolded was the move that unfolded and didn't go in the mind, right? That is following your intuition. It means it's just trusting everything that it's unfolding and viewing it from a place of joy and purpose. The second you start to question, is this the right or wrong decision? Is this spirit or is this ego? Is a red flag that you're in the ego, because that's a reflection. That's a look back. right? You like that's a moment of not even that, of judgment. You're judging. You're making a judgment that one is right, one is wrong, one is ego, one is spirit. And so you can't, right? Like you can't coexist. Love and fear can't coexist. You can't be using your judgment glasses and still have your spirit glasses on. Like it's not possible.
So interesting. There's so many valid points. There definitely lots to reflect on.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a whole nother conversation.
I know. It's
But I think,
I mean, every single interaction we have, everything we do in this life has purpose behind it.
but it only has one purpose.
Which is
remembrance.
Yeah.
It's all like same, but different. But the ego has us create all these fun little purposes, right? Like, I'm going to save the world. I'm going to save starving children in Africa. I'm going to give people shoes. I'm going to, like all these time to distract us from the real purpose that's here. Oh, which we have to do. I don't know if like it's through this podcast, maybe it's like a special edition, but pluribus. Like so many concepts, we're not going to get into it right now because our podcast will end up being like 5 hours today. But we will, anyone listening, like go watch it, be ready. Constantine and I are going to do some episodes because all this stuff we're talking about right there, we can have tangible examples of what this looks like at the level of form. It's pretty fucking funny.
Yeah. Oh, that's gonna be a fun discussion.
Yeah. But ultimately, yes, everything only has one purpose, Constantine. Yes, it feels like there's things at the level of form. And I'm not saying like we should all of a sudden, stop recycling and stop this or that, but it's the weight, like you and I talked earlier. It's the weight. Like if all of a sudden, I can't be friends with someone who doesn't recycle, or I like have all of this fear if I don't recycle, of the world coming to the end and stuff, then I'm stuck in a story. But if I just recycle, I just recycle. If I accidentally throw the yogurt container in the regular trash, okay, like it's the story that runs in the background that gets us to view it differently.
Yeah, and then it goes back to the whole thing we talked about earlier, which is like we don't want to replace a negative story with a positive, because in the example you gave, it's like, and I say that because I've been there myself, it's like instead of replacing a story of like, oh, I haven't recycled the yogurt cup, the world is gonna end, changing the story is like, it's not a big deal, it's just one piece. That's still a story, right?
Right. So it just is. Like if the yogurt didn't get recycled, it just is.
Yeah. And it reminds me immediately, like as soon as you said that, it was like this avalanche of memories of like stories of my own that I took from my own upbringing and raising, of like, Andra would do something a certain way that to me, based on my upbringing and whatnot, was wrong, and I would be so like flustered and so upset and be like, how can you be doing that? That's not the right way to do it. Meanwhile, she would never know what the right way is because I never communicated that. Right? There was my own story. There was something that I've seen in my life, and B, it wasn't a big deal. I mean, almost nothing is a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Well, nothing is really a big deal.
Yeah. Unless we give it name, right? Like in the human aspect, there's a few things that are a big deal, but yeah.
Because what's a big deal to one person is not to the other. Therefore, it's immediately red flag. It's a story. So it's all about perceptions and stories, and if there's only one here, right? If we're all one, then there's only one perception. There's only one interacting with itself. There's only one that has, you know what I mean? Like when you really just look at it as one, you're like, okay, if this is just like, what was that movie where the guy was on the stranded island with the Wilson,
the bowl. I've never watched it. I think it's Castaway or something.
Yeah, I never watched it either, actually, because I think it's really long, like 3.5 hours or something. And I just didn't see it appealing, a random guy by himself sitting on an island. But now that I think about it, I'm like, well, I mean, he peopled his own island with a Wilson volleyball. Isn't that pretty much what we've done here too? Just maybe at the level of 8 billion. You know?
Yes, yeah.
Which is like a whole nother I digress moment. But I think in our episode about pluribus, like definitely could dive in about that because that really shows the oneness.
Yeah, that was an interesting show, that's for sure.
Yeah. Huh. Well, how are you feeling, friend? I feel like we started out with chickens.
I'm feeling good. I mean, hey, we can end on the chicken note as well. Like, I was just talking to Andra and the previous owner as well, and planning out for the summer. I'm gonna have these little projects, like handyman projects, to build a bigger coop and a bigger run, and I'm gonna breed different chickens and
Wow.
raise some babies. And anyway, so
Yeah.
it's
No, I love it.
it's
We're
fun
staying.
because yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're staying here longer and like we'll be at the farm more often and they have their chickens just keep multiplying and they are looking at the same thing, like building a bigger coop and a bigger run because
There we go.
because chickens multiply quickly. But you got to get yourself some fancy chickens. So they
Well,
have this.
most of mine are pretty fancy.
Oh, they are?
I mean, I have to send you a picture. I don't think I ever did. I mean, fancy in the sense that like they're all like special breeds. All the eggs are
Yeah.
different colors, like blue and green and teal and
So
dark
cool.
red and like all the like rainbow colors they call them, and pretty cool stuff. Because that's what the previous owner Alexandra loved to collect. And
Chickens.
oh yeah, chickens with feathers on their feet, right? With
Yeah.
fancy colors, and oh yeah, it's a beautiful.
Yeah, we have a
collection.
white
I'll have
one.
to take some more pictures of them. I want to inventory them anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I'm about to go eat baby chickens. We're having eggs for dinner.
Thanks, yeah. There we go. You go enjoy your dinner.
Yeah, well, it's been so wonderful having you. I mean, it's so fun to be on the other side and for us to come have a conversation and like, what's so funny, Constantine, about this light is like lighting has been the biggest issue. We're in Washington, which it's really cloudy and gray and gloomy all the time. And so, when you're having a podcast, having the perfect lighting is super important. So like it's been this whole adventure trying to figure it out. And then Evelina helped me. We found this perfect area where the sunlight comes in. And most of the time it's cloudy. So the other day when we found it, it was cloudy. It was even cloudier today. So when I was going to have this call with you, I was like, oh my gosh, so I had to find a light. And so then I had the light. And then what? At minute 50, it's like, I guess we're just, light between us is meant to have this really dark vibe in my at the level of form from my side. But it's the light thing I feel like has been
funny because I literally, that's why I was a couple minutes late. I was putting a light behind or in front of me here, because I don't have the proper setup just yet in my office here for the lighting, so it could look kind of dark. And it's
you could have just embraced the dark.
Yeah, exactly, right. It's like at the end of the day, everything is built on a story.
Yeah. Even this, the light, the dark, and what a podcast should look like or not look like, quality.
And in the end, why does it matter, right? If it's just about the conversation and nothing else, none of that matters.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, a good microphone, I guess, does, because in headphones you can hear each other, but beyond that,
right.
Yeah, it's interesting, huh?
Yeah, it's like such a rabbit hole. And you know what? Okay, randomly on that for a second. Remember when you were doing your podcast, it was like the big uptick of everybody doing like super clear 4K videos, very professional looking and stuff. And now what I've been reading is like people don't want that anymore. Like they're sick of the too professional, so they want like more like 720p or 1080p again, or like cameras from the 90s taking videos and stuff. It's like, again, a story, so it just shows as soon as the ego like can't keep hold of you in that story, right? Like we all have the perfect 4K setup, then it's like, all right, new story. And that's the story of chasing the carrot, that when you're living in the ego, you're constantly trying to keep up with the Joneses, chasing the carrot, it's this never ending spiral that you never get out of.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Well, we kind of digressed there towards the end, but so much love. I will, in the show notes, you'll have to send me the link for your album again. Well, I have it. I'll put that in there so anyone tuning in can go check out Constantine's creations. They're amazing. Pat's starting to cook, and the habaneros are about to choke me out, so we're perfectly ending the call. But any last thoughts from you, dear friend?
It's been a pleasure as always. Thank you for having me on, and until next time.
Until next time. So much love. Bye-bye, friend. Bye, everyone.